Strava and similar training platforms have revolutionized how runners track their progress, connect with others, and stay motivated. With detailed breakdowns of pace, distance, elevation, and personal records, many athletes use these tools not only to measure performance, but to gauge how safe or sustainable their training is. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your Strava data might be lying to you. While it can tell you how far and fast you've gone, it cannot accurately tell you how close you are to injury. The core problem is that platforms like Strava are designed to document what happened, not what's about to happen. They record miles, segment times, and cumulative load, but they don't track sleep quality, joint soreness, subtle biomechanical compensations, or lingering fatigue that hasn't yet turned into pain. As a result, a training log can look perfect on paper: smooth mileage buildup, steady pacing, a good mix of workouts, and still be hiding the slow progression toward injury. What's more, these platforms often celebrate risky behavior. Runners get virtual trophies for speed and distance, not for skipping a session because their Achilles felt tight. Social reinforcement encourages pushing through fatigue, matching others' weekly totals, or stacking up back-to-back hard runs. And while it feels good to win a segment or crush a long run, that high-performance data can paint a false picture of fitness. Just because you ran a fast 10K doesn't mean your tissues are ready for another one. Some platforms have tried to add smarter analytics like fitness, fatigue, and form scores, but even these are based on indirect proxies like pace, heart rate, and training volume. They rarely incorporate individual variability in recovery, stress tolerance, or injury history. You and another runner might log identical weeks on Strava, but your risk of injury could be radically different. The app doesn't know you've been sitting at a desk for 12 hours a day or fighting off a cold. It only knows you hit your numbers. Another blind spot is the lack of negative data. Strava doesn't track skipped runs, aborted workouts, or the growing stiffness in your knee that made you cut that tempo run short. Most runners don't log minor issues, so the platform creates an illusion of smooth progress until things break. And because there's no feedback loop for pain or injury, the dataset is incomplete at best, misleading at worst. This doesn't mean Strava and similar tools are useless. They can be incredibly helpful for accountability, pattern recognition, and community support. But injury prevention requires more than a clean-looking graph or a streak of green training days. It requires honest check-ins with your body, awareness of how you're responding to stress, and the courage to ease off even when the data says you're on track. In fact, over-reliance on digital metrics can erode self-awareness. If your decision to train or rest is based solely on what your Strava chart shows, rather than how your foot feels when it hits the ground, you're outsourcing judgment to a system that doesn't feel your pain. That's a recipe for subtle breakdowns that escalate into major ones. The better approach is to use platforms like Strava as a tool, not a compass. Let the data guide you, but not rule you. Annotate your workouts with notes on how you felt, track perceived effort alongside pace, and don't be afraid to log the skip sessions or modifications. That kind of qualitative data, how hard a run felt, what your joints are saying, whether you're mentally drained, may be more predictive of injury than numbers alone. In the end, safe training is deeply personal. It's shaped by what's going on inside your body, not just what your watch uploads to the cloud. Strava can tell your story, but only you know how it's really going. And the sooner you learn to read between the lines of your own data, the more likely you are to stay healthy, consistent, and injury-free.